Welcome to ChuckChat News and Notes for March 23rd, 2026. AI is moving from models into systems, and you're going to see a number of different articles that are showing really the pace at which things are going is doing, again, still nothing but increasing, but tried to pull together some different trends for you and some other information that I think is relevant. So step one, our first section here is the stack is getting physical. It's not just compute, it's not just AI pieces themselves. It is what are we actually going to see being built out? How fast is it being built out? There's a lot going on for all of this. So one interesting release that came out over the course of this last week was there's a study done around water and actual water usage, and it's not necessarily the doom and gloom that has been talked about, but it is something which is important to note as we think about what's going through. There's local for a local area, that's really where those different concerns are. But global, it's a lot less stress than what has been made out. So what we're actually also seeing is that it's a limit. There's a lot of it's like closed loop systems, or there's other things that are going around in there. So well worth a read if you have any concerns around what's going on from an infrastructure point of view. There's a lot of other things to still worry about with this pace of build out, but this helps with one of the big ones. Meta has signed a big deal with Nebius. Is that right? The name. They to be able to Nebius to be able to lock in compute. They need to have guaranteed everybody who's building out these different models and trying to be able to go as fast as they can. You got to have enough compute to not just do the training, but also to be able to do serving. It's one of those areas where, and we heard more about this in NVIDIA had a big conference this week, and it was around growth in inference is a huge thing as well. So in order to be able to sustain it, in order to be able to serve it, you got to have all that. And so just continuing to run into that bottleneck, and this is more and more going to be one where you're gonna see more sustained news and notes around who's buying what, who's snapping it up, how fast can they get it, can they, and this is why they're even talking about space. This one I thought was interesting. You've got in the ongoing battle for cash to be able to fund these different things. You got major players going after enterprise because that's where long-term consistent dollars are. This one busted out just this morning. This note, and it shows how OpenAI is offering a guaranteed return of 17.5%, which is insane, very unusual inside of venture style deals. But along with that, they get access to earlier access to models, preferred capability. This is really a way to be able to go after some of those big PE buyers of companies and say, use our stuff. You've got a preferred lock in essentially with who is going to be able to do that, and using the private equity as a distribution engine for their systems. It's fairly clever. Both Anthropic and OpenAI are doing this. OpenAI is the one who's right now providing a guaranteed return, but they're after very big PE companies that are doing those purchases as a way to be able to lock in usage and ongoing. Meanwhile, with all this and with so much money being thrown around, there's only so much talent to be able to drive these sets of things. And being able to kind of see what's going on, this study actually points out how those top level folks, and this is really the top couple percentages, but there's a $1.5 million per year gap in pay between one and the other. Absolutely crazy in terms of the different numbers. But you can see lots of this moving from talent going to these really big firms. I think part of this is not just, hey, there's big money. Of course, big money is always going to motivate people to do some shifting, but it's also to be able to really be at the frontier of data science and research in these things. You have to be someplace where they have the compute. The compute is bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is not something that is currently in universities. There's not public funding around being able to do that. I think there's an opportunity for government to step in, for universities to step in. Those are billions of dollars, and it's difficult to get the hardware, just as we've been covering in the first few slides of this one. But I think we're going to continue to see this divide of private versus public until some of that stuff starts to get addressed. It becomes a national asset. Uh, a whole lot of things came out of the NVIDIA GTC conference. Not the least of which was Nemo Claw, an open claw version, but I'm not going deep into that one here, although it is an interesting thing to see. But this one I thought was particularly interesting, and you can watch some of the sessions are recorded. They're available for replay, so you can watch this particular one. But this I thought was interesting because they talked about how biology and solving biology is not just a science problem, it's a tech and compute problem now. If you can throw tokens at it, you can do things at a level that you couldn't before. And the amount of data from a biology is so huge, it's bigger than data on the internet is. Being able to train on those, be able to do closed loop discovery. And so we're going to start to see scientific and research things moving in this direction. This is a big item that NVIDIA is pushing in terms of compute and cloud and the natural generation, and buying essentially a virtual warehouse of capability to do researches. An example of that is Roche. Roche announced that they are building an AI factory for drug discovery. So lots of compute that they're bringing together. They're looking at it from a pharmacy point of view, being able to drive pharma. It's a GPU heavy to be able to do the research, the operational quality checks, and all of the different things to go along with that from a biology point of view. But this is a solid and concrete and real world proof, and this is just one field. I think you're going to see this in many other fields where they're building essentially these AI factories for being able to do discovery, to be able to have them running 24 hours a day, being able to deliver insights and then figure out what to do with them next. So next is the evolution. So it's going from prompts into more products, how things are being delivered. The interfaces are changing and shifting. This is one where I've seen this coming for a while, and I think just our ability as humans to be able to process some of this information, we really require some additional help to be able to push this to where it needs to be able to actually take maximal advantage of the intelligence we now have really at our beck and call. So prompting is becoming more reasoning architecture, and this paper really goes around how taking initially it was here's how you do your prompt, you gotta do prompt engineering to be able to do this, and it's been sort of a talk track for a while now that hey, now it's about context engineering. It's about bringing the right pieces in at the right time to be able to set the right goals, provide the right tools. It's really that ecosystem and how you manage it that is really going to give you the dependability that you need for a system to be able to do that next level of thinking and capability. And so this is one where I think you're going to see more and more this coming to pass. Got a pair of announcements here in the next piece. Google released a couple of things. We had Vibe coding, and we had Vibe AI, and now there's Vibe Design. This actually is a really cool tool, and it's worth going and checking it out, playing with it a little bit. But basically, you describe the interface that you want, and it builds it. It gives you a UI layer. It's very advanced sets of things in terms of colors and capability. It's AI. The design loop capabilities are really quite good. Maybe a full blown great designer can do a better job, but for a lot of people, you're not going to get access to those full great deep designers, and so this gives a quick start. And I think even for those designers, getting fast tracks, and they will give you different options, so you can say give me 4 options to be able to do this, puts it all into a canvas. You can pick those different items that you want to be able to move forward, and then gives you some of the different generated artifacts and assets. And they use that to be able to then feed this next piece, which is part of their Google Vibe build layer. And so this tool set is really one where they're taking the full end to end. So this is the evolution of the coding tools that they started to roll out, and being able to take that and say, okay, here's the prompt. I want to be able to build these pieces. It'll actually build your back end. It builds front end. It ties all the different capabilities together. So the design to build story is continuing to tighten. Talked a little bit about that in the last one. Google is no different. They've got a set of capabilities, and so taking those things to the next level is really where they're all aiming. Meanwhile, OpenAI has got a series of different tools, and they're different applications. And so there's some talk around, hey, it's difficult, it's costly to manage all these different applications. One of the things that I've said for a while has been that I see AI kind of becoming the operating system, and this is sort of a play in that direction, where rather than it being a whole series of different apps that have different specific things, you have your general purpose intro. I think Anthropic actually already does this fairly well. If you use their desktop tools, they've got a set of those different items. They maybe don't have quite as many or quite all of the same things, but they've got skills, they've got tools, they've now got projects this week. And so OpenAI looking to kind of collapse those different things. So you've got the browser, you've got codecs, you've got the general chat, and all of those things within one set. I think this is going to be a win for them in a couple of different areas of being able to consolidate workflows and provide capabilities. But I think you're also going to see some things where maybe in corporate and enterprise, we're going to see some potential pushback on some of that from a unified thing from a security point of view. Uh, this one I think is, oh, it's almost funny. This is Amazon with they're doing another AI phone. The big takeaway here is not, hey, they really want to have a phone. It is that everybody is after that next class of device for how AI is going to go out and into the world. And whether it's OpenAI with their top secret versions of what it is that they're trying to build, Amazon, everybody wants to be able to do that. Displacing Apple, displacing Google with the phones is a natural place for people to target. Some folks are saying it's going to be glasses, but I think that's really where this play goes. Vibe coding, however, isn't running into platform issues. So the aforementioned Apple, they haven't shut it down or turned off the different applications, but because in a number of these different apps, the vibe coding apps, you can actually build and deploy apps within that ecosystem. There's rules that they have to be able to control. Apple has always had kind of the protected walled garden of capabilities, and they've got to approve things that are going through and into the different applications. And you don't necessarily have to have that if you're going through these different things. And so they're working with them to get this unlocked. But the next level of that fight that's going to happen as things start to scale, it's not just tech, it's not just CAN, it's how are we going to run that with the platforms? What's the distribution ecosystem going to be, and how is all that going to work together? Now we get into operating. So it's not just an AI or an agent assisting you, but it's operating and running things on your behalf. Sometimes reporting back in, other times running for a long time before doing so. So this was one of the lead-in news notes last time was the AI going to war and Anthropic and all the things going on along there. Well, the Pentagon has now signed a deal with Palantir to run their AI. Now, this is interesting on a couple of different levels. They've had this relationship with Palantir for a long time, but Palantir doesn't really have their own deep models. They use Anthropic, they use OpenAI, they use Gemini, they use a variety of different models behind the scenes. So, from a government point of view, what they're trying to do is to be able to have that layer of abstraction and being able to say, okay, we're going to use the right ones behind the scenes. But there is also still the press of, hey, if right now Anthropic is one of the best models to be able to do any of these different things, and Palantir is going to have to pull those things apart if the current wave of litigation holds. So this is going to continue to be an area to watch. It's going to be one where it is really important. I think you're going to see nation states all together are going to care about these things and how it actually works. And so I think we're one to continue to keep an eye on. AI and firewalls. This was another thing from the NVIDIA GTC conference. They've had this for a while, where they've had Nemo guardrails. Guardrails is the ability to do guidance and to be able to build essentially an ecosystem around your AI to be able to control some of the things that go through. And they've doubled down. They continue to add different capabilities inside of this. This is part of the Nemo Claw stuff too, where you can actually put things around jailbreaking and where you can put infrastructure boxes to be able to go for more enterprise scale, go for more upgraded security, being able to actually control and contain where you need to the right thing. So more tools, more polish on those tools. This is going to be a piece of the ecosystem that's going to continue to mature and provide better capabilities and deeper capabilities. Meanwhile, this is interesting. It's partly you get the exciting title of Jeff Bezos is $100 billion. But really, what they're looking to be able to do is to buy manufacturing and then add in AI and push those manufacturing capabilities towards AI native, robotics native, and really to reinvent that physical world. So this is going to be an area to watch. The current set of government controls around when you're investing capital and the rate at which you can write that capital back down is very favorable to doing something along these lines, trying to bring back manufacturing into the US. That doesn't mean that they're going to bring back manufacturing jobs. It just means they're going to bring back manufacturing. And this is really pointed at being able to do that, modernize and accelerate the ability to build things. And so I think this is potentially a leapfrog capability if the right things line up. Then if we take a few steps back, all of these things together, there's a couple of different pieces that came out, and I'll have links for all of these different things in the comments section and in the general description section. But I think if you take a step back and you look at the macro pattern of this, it's not just these individual things; it's the confluence of items that are happening. So all of this stuff we're seeing the stack is continuing to go and to grow, and so we're seeing more and more the different pieces harden. We're seeing them actually start to interact with one another as well. And so there's a couple of different things. The ARC big ideas came out this last week, and there's a lot of great things in there. They talk about AI and robotics and energy and blockchain and how all those things together are adding up, whether it's healthcare that it's accelerating or whether it's capabilities in manufacturing that it's accelerating. They've got they're in the business of innovation and monetizing innovation. That's what they do within their fund. So that's the particular ones that they're looking at. But there's also additional ones. The latest one from the Tech Trends report was out the South by Southwest here in Texas, and a revamp of that from a Tech Trends report also is all about confluence of factors. It's all about the different pieces going on. I'm probably going to do a separate deeper dive into these just to talk a little bit more about them. So more to follow on that, but I think this is really some of the things that we can expect to see. So that's it for the news. That's it for the notes for this March 23rd and this last week. If you like this sort of news, you think that this is useful, please, one, share it with somebody else. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'd love for you to become a long-term person who is helping here and building out the community. So thank you all. I hope you have a great one.